Hello BookTube, this is Sina and you're watching Beating Around the Books. Today I'm doing a tag. It's called the Books and Life tag, which has been done by quite a few people already. It was originally created by Steve Donahue and I was kindly tagged by Sean the Book Maniac. Thank you very much, Sean. So let's start. Number 1, on a scale of 1 to 10, being a normal person, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being a normal person and 10 being the late Harold Bloom, how much are books and reading a part of your life? So it depends on, after watching some people, I thought, maybe I'm not as high as I thought. Anyway, I think it might be a 6 or a 7, I think. So I do other things apart from reading. I have friends that I meet, not so much right now, but generally. And, spend time with my husband, blah, blah, blah. I try to exercise, not that I do that very much right now. But otherwise, reading is, I think, my sort of number 1 pastime. And apart from reading for pleasure, I also study literature, so even when I'm not reading books for my own pleasure, I do end up spending, a considerable amount of time reading books for that, or thinking about them, writing about them, or reading other people's writing about them. So I think 6 or 7 is probably justified. Who knows? Something along those lines. Number 2. Where does your personal library stand right now in relation to the rest of your life? Do you have more books now than you ever had? Fewer? How has your library changed? So I've moved quite a lot since I moved out from my parents. And every time I've moved, I ended up packing away some books. Not actually getting rid of them because I find that incredibly difficult, but I put them in boxes and then put them in the garage at my parents' house. So I'm not actually sure how many there are now. It must be quite a lot. The only time I haven't done it is the last time when I moved here. And now, because I decided, okay, it's got to stop. You've got to stop filling up their space. It'll be already a nightmare to sort through them at some point. So now I've lived in this place for 8 years already, almost. And obviously since then, whatever I came here with, it's grown. I've only gotten rid of 7 books. I remember feeling already quite accomplished when I got rid of 7 books the last time I tried to cull my shelves, because I find it very difficult to get rid of them. So I have, apart from what is on these shelves here, I have now finally worn down my husband, and we have a small shelf on the other side of the room there, because it was we were in dire need of one. But apart from that, we also have several boxes full of books that already didn't fit anywhere. So I would say with all the stuff that's here and accessible to me, it's probably quite similar to what it was, the last few years. But in total, the books I'm in possession of, it's definitely larger than it ever has been, because I'm terrible at getting rid of stuff. Has it changed? Well, it's changed in the types of books that I predominantly buy, right? Obviously, since starting BookTube, my book buying has definitely gone up. Then, my taste has changed to an extent, not only prompted by BookTube, but also by studying literature. So I had this huge phase of reading a lot of fantasy as a teenager and also into my 20s, and that has kind of taken a back seat. I've not completely sworn off it, but I find fewer and fewer fantasy books that I actually enjoy, so I tend to not read them. Sorry, the cat is being disruptive again. So, let's just go on to 3. Take a mental step back and ask yourself, what is the most likely first bookish impression a newcomer would have in your home? So there's no books in the hallway. No, that's not true. There are books in the hallway, but not right when you get in. But they would normally immediately enter the lounge, which is here. So they would see this and then this other shelf that's already overflowing, even though we haven't had it for very long. And of course, my personal library is nowhere near as big as some other people here on BookTube. You know, one, I'm a lot younger, I haven't had as much time as, not a lot younger than everyone, but than some. I haven't had as much time and I've moved so often. But compared to most of my friends, probably all of them apart from one, I probably have the most books out of our sort of circle. So usually they would probably be like, ooh, that's a lot of books. Then the next thing would probably be the question of whether these are mine or my husband's, because most of them are in English. And usually if people don't know exactly about my reading habits before, they would expect these all to be my husband's because, like I said, most of them are in English. And I would assume they wouldn't know most of them. I mean, yeah, there's some classics and stuff, and some sort of contemporary stuff, but well, I don't actually have many reader friends, so yeah. Number 4. How often, if ever, gulp, do you clean or reorganize your books? I don't think I've ever cleaned my books in that sense. Have I? No. I mean, if they're dusty, yeah. Reorganize, well, not as often as I should. I really get a kick out of reorganizing the books, but I also find it incredibly daunting because it takes so long for me to decide how to put them back. This condensation is really annoying me. Sorry, it's very warm again, or humid really, not warm. Yeah, I would say I wish I did it more often, but reorganizing probably once or twice a year. Number 5, on average, how many books do you acquire in a given week? So don't think I buy books weekly, and it can go different ways. If I buy secondhand books, I normally, well, if it's not in person in a shop, I normally need to reach a certain limit, a minimum to get free shipping. So usually there'll be at least 2 or 3 books in those orders. But you know, if I find a lot of stuff that I'm interested in, I might also go ahead and buy 6 or 7. In normal bookshops, I tend rarely to find anything. But I think maybe on the whole, it's probably maybe 2 a week on average, something like that. But I could be way off. Should probably keep track how much money I spend on books, but maybe that would be too frightening. Okay, number 6. What song is your current earworm? Elbow's a friend of ours. It's a rather sad, melancholic song that they wrote after a friend of theirs passed away. I'm gonna link it. There's a beautiful version on YouTube with an orchestra. Okay, next one, number 7. What percentage of your self-control do you retain in a well-stocked bookshop? I don't know what well-stocked means, because for me, I mean, if we're staying realistic, I live in Germany and I read very few German books. I don't know why exactly. I mean, one reason is that I'm very interested in a lot of books that are originally written in English, and then I choose to read them in English. And then the other thing, I don't know what it is, but I think it's maybe the blurbs. Most German books don't do it for me. They just don't sound interesting. So if I'm in a shop here, the English language section is rather small. And often I love browsing in them, but I will often leave without buying anything, because even if there sometimes might be one interesting book, the imported ones are really expensive. Sometimes I might buy one. So yeah, I guess a lot of self-control. But then if we're saying well-stocked bookshop, if I'm going elsewhere, it might be a different thing. Although I would be traveling and I would be limited by my luggage. So probably I would still have quite a lot of self-control. It's very different if I go to a second-hand shop. There's one Oxfam here that only has one shelf of English books, but also, of course, they have a lot of German books, and sometimes I find some interesting stuff there. And because they're a lot cheaper, I will probably end up buying, quite a bit more. Anyway, number 8, do you ever feel the need to take a break from books? If so, what form does it take? I don't think I feel a need to take a break. I mean, I don't read all day, every day, right? I tend to read every day, but maybe not quite. But, of course, there's other activities for me that take priority in my life sometimes. But I've also often opted against going somewhere to read more. No, I don't think so. Obviously there's other things I do. Like I really enjoy cooking, and that can take up a lot of time, but usually then I listen to an audiobook. Anyway, I'm not quite sure what that is supposed to mean. I mean, sometimes I might want to take a break from a specific book, but normally then I'll just pick up a different one. Number 9, when you meet a new person, how long does it take you to bring up books? I don't usually bring up books unless the topic arises organically. I don't know if you can hear them, but they're just pawing at some cardboard stuff, sorry. If it arises organically in the conversation, then of course I'm happy to talk about books. More than happy, really. But most of the time, most people aren't readers. And new people, I don't meet so many. I might bring it up myself if we talk about a topic and I've just read a book that reminds me of this, you know what I mean? But otherwise, it would probably be more in reaction to the other person having brought it up. I don't know. Anyway, number 10, have you given any thought, made any provisions for your personal library after you croak? No, I have not. I think at my age, tend to not think so much about our mortality. I'm assuming right now, since I haven't made any provisions, if my husband survived me, they would just go to him. And he would probably not be interested in keeping all of them. Although he has a sentimental streak. But yeah, I'm sure he'd keep some. And I would hope that he wouldn't just bin the rest. Maybe he could donate them. There's a little shop, there's a bookshop here that takes donations, and any of the proceeds from selling them go to Doctors Without Borders. That would be a nice way to get rid of them. Or you could give them to our friend who's a reader. We have one friend that, in town who's also a reader. I don't know. The only thing I have made provisions for with regards to my mortality is if I die in a way that will still make my organs viable, I would like my organs to be donated. And my husband knows this, and I also have filled in a thing that's in my wallet. Because I think that's kind of an important one, to take away that burden from your family, and to make your wishes known in that regard, whatever way that may go. So if you haven't, check it out, because it might depend, depending on which country you're in, it might be an opt-in or an opt-out option, because here it's opt-in. So if you don't have any of that filled in, the standard is that they are not allowed to harvest your organs. Sorry, this is a weird tangent, slightly morbid, but anyway, I think it's an important one to think about. Okay, back to books. So last question, 11. Are you known among your friends and loved ones for your weird and probably unhealthy relationship with books? Yeah, I think so, definitely. My mother-in-law comments on it every so often, because I often order books in the UK and have them sent to her or to their house. and then they just sort of pile up there and wait for me to come and pick them up. And yeah, once I've been there and picked them up, it never takes a long time for the next parcel to arrive. Yeah, and my dad is a reader himself. He's got way more books than me, and they've long surpassed the space on the shelves. There's just stacks of books everywhere, so I don't think he thinks it's unhealthy. Yeah, and like I said, I definitely read more than most of my friends, or possibly all of them with one exception. So probably quite known for that, but I don't think it's that unhealthy. There's way worse addictions you can have, right? Okay, so that is the end of this. I'm not going to tag anyone because this has been making the rounds so much, and Steve already threw this open to everyone anyway. So if you haven't made this tag and you are interested in doing so, then please do. Have a lovely day. Until the next time. I think my next video will be an actual single book review, because I've just finished one that was fantastic, and I think I should just attempt to do that. So let's see if that works out or not. Bye bye.